Welcome to Truckers Voices Podcast. Your host, Tim Taylor, and co-host, Steve Brand. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
This is Danny Smith. Just calling to tell you how much I appreciate listening to your show, Truckers Voices. It's very informative. I really like hearing the driver stories, how they got into the trucking industry and maybe what kind of trucks they started out with. And it's just been a lot of fun, and I would encourage any drivers out there to tune in and listen, call in, be a part of it. It's a great show. Thanks.
Hi, this is Scott Post, and I love Truckers' Voices because there's always something entertaining and educational for our industry. And it's also hosted by two of my good friends, Tim Taylor and Steve Brand. Tune in tonight. And in the meantime, be safe out there.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? My name's Charlie Demchuk, and I'm here to welcome you to tonight's big show. Y'all sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Tim and Steve got a good one in store for you. So have a good night. We'll see ya.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight out there? I hope that you had a good day of trucking today. This is my buddy Steve on the other side, and we are ready for the Truckers Voices podcast tonight. We got a special show tonight. We got a gentleman by the name of Mike Sinclair. Steve knows him better than I do, so I'm going to let Steve come in here and talk a little bit more about him and give you an introduction. But hey, before I go to Steve, I hope that y'all had a great day of trucking. I hope that everything went exactly the way you had planned it out. But if it didn't go the way you planned it out, hey, baby, that's trucking. That's trucking, because you never plan in trucking, because it won't never go your way. Right, Steve?
Exactly. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Truckers, truckheads, ladies, gentlemen, dogs, cats.
Dogs, cats.
Sisters, whatever. I mean, you know, there's got to be a dog somewhere sitting there with his ears perked up, his head turned, going, "I ain't believing that. I'm not believing this." But no, it's a good day of trucking. Yesterday, not so good. I had to got caught up a couple backups, but we made it. Hope the people involved in the accidents made it. It didn't look too pretty, but hope everybody's in good condition, good shape. I see we got Mike Sinclair on, and Mike's got a good story to tell us. I've known Mike for several years, worked with him at a few safety events and everything. I'm looking forward to talking to him tonight.
Alrighty, so Steve, if you want me to, I'll bring Mike out of the back virtual green room, and we'll get started with this interview. I do appreciate you telling me about this gentleman. I got to talk to him a couple of days, here before the interview, and really impressed with his story. And I think that the listening audience out there, you truckers, I think that you're going to really enjoy and benefit from what he has to tell us today. So, as we always do on the Truckers Voices podcast, we always try to find out somebody's story on how he or she got into the trucking industry. But beyond that, Mike's got some good stories to tell us and some good advice to give the next generation of up-and-coming drivers out there. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring Mike in here. So bring Mike on in the studio here. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing real good, Tim and Steve. Thank you guys very much for having me on tonight.
Oh man, it's a great pleasure to have you on here tonight, and we thank you. So Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a general bio of who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing now these days.
Okay, I'm Mike Sinclair. I'm from New Concord, Ohio. And for those of you that travel on I-70, when you go past the scales going westbound, up over the hill, you can see my house back across the woods to the south side. Uh, I've been around trucks my entire life, ever since I was a young man. Well, actually, a little kid. The first time I went with my dad in a truck was in an old white 4000, I believe it was, back in the late 60s, early 70s. I grew up and went to school right here in the same area. I went into the service, drove truck and heavy equipment in the service, and come out of there and started driving one of my dad's trucks hauling coal out of Peabody Coal, the Simcoe mine and Broken Arrow mines here in Coshocton County. And from there, when he sold the trucks, I went with Ross Brothers and worked for them, Ross Brothers / Lodi, for 11 and a half years. And I did everything there from hog coal to concrete in a tanker, asphalt emulsions, road oil, steel, you name it, I did it. The only thing I hadn't done for them was haul livestock. And from there, I went to Yellow Freight in Columbus, Ohio, and worked for 27 years before I had this DVT hit me in the leg. And that's what I'm here to talk about tonight.
Alrighty. So let's back up a little bit on what you just told us just then. So how many years did you work with Yellow Freightways?
27 years.
27 years. Wow. So yeah, that's about as long as I've been over here at FedEx. And so you started over at Yellow in about 1994, 1995, correct?
Yes, 94.
94. Okay. So with that said, let's back up from there. So what did you actually do before Yellow?
I worked for Ross Brothers at Adams Mills, Ohio.
Okay.
And my main job there was hauling coal into the Conesville power plant, which they are now tearing down, which I thought I'd never see. And also with them, I hauled asphalt emulsions into their asphalt plant and road oil, and also concrete into their concrete plants. And then I hauled steel too. I'd come in from hauling coal all day and hook the flatbed and be at Fisk or Scissors in Wisconsin the next morning.
Okay. All right. So Steve, you jump on in there. You and Mike have a real good relationship. So I want you to speak to that a little bit.
Well, I don't remember when you and I first met, Mike, but it all had to do with the safety and the safety team you was on with Yellow and YRC, and we got mutual friends. Seen you at the TDCs. You can elaborate there.
Yes, the first time I met you was at the No Zone display. I believe it was 2015 or 2016. I think it was your first year there, wasn't it?
I think so. I think I was actually talking to Mark and Kathy, and I think I come on my own.
Yes.
And got into it and got permission from my company. They said they wouldn't pay me, and I said, that's fine. I just want to go learn what this is about. And that was kind of my jump start into becoming a road team captain and so on and so forth, because I've always been safety orientated.
Yes.
And to see the setup and everything was just totally awesome. I don't know if Tim's got any pictures of the display, but the setup, I mean, it is really, really very educational.
Yes. The first year I did it, there was a young girl come up through. She was 23 years old, I believe. And I might not have sent any of them ones. But the girl, she was on the south side of Columbus. I'll never forget it. She, at 23 and 270. And she was in a blind spot. We was working the No Zone display. And she come up through there and she was shaking and crying. Her parents brought her up there to the display at the state fair. And she started telling me what happened. I said, no, ma'am. I said, let me set you in the seat and tell you what happened. And so I set her down in the seat, and she was still trembling. She was scared. And so she told me where her car was, and it was on the passenger side in the blind spot. And the guy, from knowing the area, he thought she got off and went 23 south. And when he come over to go 23 north, he bumped her off the road. Well, she didn't go off. She was far enough back. She went under the trailer and barrel rolled under the trailer, as we've seen them do before in blind spots. And she thought the driver had done it on purpose, and he'd done it on accident. And once I showed her that he couldn't see where her car was because we had that car sitting there, she come out there hugging me and crying me. And I didn't know at that time she had not drove since the accident. And she told her dad that she wanted to drive home that day. And her mom and dad give me hugs. And from that point on, I was hooked, because I realized I not only made a difference on how people drove around the truck, I made a difference on how people looked at us.
Right. Tim, you have it.
Yeah, I lost my camera. Can you hear me though?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So y'all go ahead and talk, and I'm just going to try to get this camera back up. Okay.
Okay. Get a little bit of that echo there, but it'll be all right.
Yeah.
See, it's stuff like that. The echo's gone, Tim. It's stuff like that it touches you in a way to encourage us as drivers to promote that even more.
Yes.
So right there, I see that as a vision, Mike, that you did two things. You showed her it wasn't the driver's fault. Plus two, you built her confidence to go back behind the wheel.
Yes.
Yes. And that's the thing. I had a young lady down in Evansville, Indiana, that had her permit, but she was scared to drive. And she would drive a little bit in town, but she wouldn't get out on 41 or anything like that. And I just talked to her for a little bit. And I said, hey, is your mom or grandma or aunt, whoever picked you up, going to pick you up this evening? Yeah. I said, get behind the wheel and go around the block. And I said, once you're comfortable with that block, stretch it out to 2 blocks. And I said, go 3 blocks, go a little farther. And I said, when your confidence is built up, then step out on the busy street, the busy city street. I don't remember what the name of it was, like a main street or something. And so I'm hoping that built her confidence. I had a lot of confidence in her. Just the way she was talking, that she was going to try that. So I'm really hopeful that worked.
Yes.
But, she didn't want to get up in the truck. She was scared to death of the truck. I walked her all around the truck, answered all of her questions. And next thing you know, she decided, I want to get up in the truck. And when I got her up in the truck, I didn't think I was going to get her out. She's like, I could drive one of these. But it's just... That no zone is such a great display over there.
Oh, yes.
And we take it on the road with the Share the Road program, and it's such a great program to get that word out. And it's not just the young, it's the middle age, the elderly, it's everybody in between,
Yes.
So.
And like you said, it's not only showing them, but it's giving them a different perspective of a truck driver.
Right.
And they realize we're not all bad people.
No.
And to me, that's very important, to have the positive image of a truck driver out, other than what they've just heard about and seen about on TV. When they can actually meet us in person and interact with us and see what our daily life is like on the road.
Well, and that's the good thing. When you get to go out and you get to talk to people, not only are you promoting safety, like you just said, you're actually promoting the image of the driver. And
Yes.
and they see the driver. I've had young men and women tell me, said, you're just like my uncle. Yeah, I'm, grandpa, dad, mom, aunt. I mean, we're common folk trying to do what your mom and dad does, except for we bring you the goods that you wear, that you eat, that you sleep on, uh, study books in school. We deliver all them, and it's a great thing. We went through a period of time, I believe, that the truck drivers had a bad image, and we're slowly but surely turning that around. And I think the perception of a truck driver now is a whole lot better than it was several years ago.
Well, I'll tell you this, and you're both about my age. I think you're both a little younger than me. But we went through a time when I was a little kid, when I went with Dad, everybody wanted you to blow your horn. Everybody went by, they was pumping their horn. Then we went for a spell, they would just look at you. Now we're back to where about every other car, the kids are wanting you to pump the horn again. So that means the image is changing, but we just need to work on it.
Anything I love more is you take spring break. Okay.
Yes.
So everybody takes off. It's been a rough winter. Everybody's been cooped up inside. You got spring break. You're riding down the road, and you see the little kids doing this in the back.
Yep.
Mom or dad is sound asleep, and you reach up there and lay on that air horn. They're jumping around. The kids are dying laughing. It's funny. But no, it's if you want to see a grown man turn into a kid, let a little kid come by and give an air horn. I get giddy, and boy, I love it. Yes. Now, the funny part was I used to drive Volvos. And you remember Volvo,
the horn in the middle, so you had to fake them out.
So I put a little bungee cord up there, and I just reach up and pull on the bungee cord at the same time I'm honking the horn. But sometimes I would pull, but it wouldn't honk, and it's like, okay, we got to work on this. We got to get there. But yeah, anything for the kids, and I don't do it a whole lot, but I'll get the college kids come by, and they're all riding around, or the guys riding around. And they give you a thumbs up. It's like, hey, hey, we're out here to please. We're out here to please. So,
yep. Oh, and I do so miss it. And like I said, I'm close enough to the interstate. I can still hear the trucks going by.
Right.
And we all say, man, I can't wait till I can get out. I can't wait till I can get out. I can tell you, it stinks when you get out and you're not ready.
Hey, Steve, real quick.
Yes,
Mike.
sir.
I got those pictures, and if you will just continue to go on with the interview, I will get them up on screen here in just a minute.
Well, tell me when you get ready to put up. We'll kind of explain them a little bit.
Okay, the ones that you just sent me. Okay.
Okay.
But y'all carry on, and I'll do that. I'll be right here working, and I'll jump right back in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
yeah, go ahead, Steve.
So now, Mike, to come to your topic, you said DVT. What does DVT stand for, and what is that in general?
DVT is deep vein thrombosis. It is a blood clot in your leg. And what causes this, in my instance, was all the years of driving truck and setting. And I was one of the guys, I would go from point A to point B, and now it's coming back to haunt me. I was coming back out of Beckley, West Virginia. I was on a meet and turn, and my leg just started throbbing like somebody kicked me in the calf. And so I kept coming up the road, and it got to hurting so bad that I had to get out of the truck and walk around. And I didn't want to take too long because I was still needing to get back home before something major happened to me, which now that I look back upon it was very stupid, because if the blood clot would have taken off, the doctors say the good thing is it was below my knee, so it would go to my lungs. Well, I'm thinking, well, I need my lungs to breathe.
Right.
And they say if it's above your knee, it goes to your heart and it'll kill you. But I'm thinking I need my lungs to breathe too. Right. But my father-in-law actually went through these. And so I remembered him talking about it. That's how I figured out what it was. And I called my nieces who are in the medical profession, and they said, yes, that's what it is. Well, that's right there when COVID shut the hospitals down. So I couldn't even get in that night. I had to wait till the next morning to get into the hospital. And from there, I went back to, well, that was on a Thursday. So I told them to go ahead and take me off of work for Friday and Saturday. And so they did. And I went back in on Tuesday. Well, I had to stop at Buckeye Lake and get out of the car to walk around because my leg was hurting. And when I got to Columbus, to where my terminal is, I went in and I said, look, I don't think I'm going to be able to work today. And one of my head supervisors was there. And so me and him got to talk, and he's a real good guy. And he said, Mike, did they tell you DVT? And I said, yes. He says, well, I hate to tell you, but the federal motor carrier says you're done for 3 months automatically.
Wow.
And from that point, then he started giving me paperwork that in the federal motor carrier, there is a place for DVTs. Now, I'll just about guarantee all the drivers listening didn't even know about a DVT or a deep vein thrombosis because we never talk about it in the trucking industry. And this is something that is, if it's in the Federal Motor Carrier Handbook, we should be discussing just like we do everything else.
Right.
And there's things we can do to keep from this happening. And my big concern right now, and why I talked to you about it when I did, Steve, at the fair, is because of the young drivers we got coming up with the automatic trucks.
Right.
Now, I had standard transmission trucks up until like 4 years ago, when we started getting the automatics. So if that hit me at that time, imagine what's going to happen to our younger guys. They need to pump their ankles up and down when they're sitting there in the truck. They need to be moving it to the music. They need to be tapping them up and down, whatever they can do. But when you take that ankle and twist it up and down, what that does, it makes the pumps in your veins work, because the pumps in my veins went bad from setting all these years and not doing that. So that's the big thing that we need to do is get the ankles moving, get out of the truck. I know the 14-hour thing and the 11-hour thing is our enemy for our health, because we're all worried about getting to where we need to be, because as good truck drivers, we want to get our freight to where it's supposed to be on time.
Correct.
And so then we don't stop and take the breaks, and we need to take more breaks. And what they're telling me is you need to be out of the truck every 1 to 2 hours and walk to get them veins working, or they're going to have the same problems I've had.
Now, Mike, did you, other than the pain, did you see any redness, any blotches, or anything like that that alerted you to anything, or just the pain started coming on you?
Just the pain started coming on. Now, there's different signs. There's the pain that you'll get in the leg. There's the swelling you'll get in the leg. There's discoloration you'll get in the leg, and it'll also get hot. So if anybody has any of these signs, please get to the doctor right away. Please get to the doctor, because it could be the difference between life and death.
All right. Well, I'm back, Steve, and let me jump in on the conversation here. So, if somebody has this deep vein thrombosis, Mike, so tell me about clots. So, you say that it can form clots in your veins. Is that correct?
Yes, what happens is your veins are not pumping the blood back up out of your legs.
Okay.
So then the blood pools in your legs, and then it causes the blood clot.
Okay.
And then that's the deep vein thrombosis.
Okay. So with that, the dangers of that is it throwing a clot up there and possibly going to your heart or lodging in your lungs. And we know that if it lodges in your lungs, you're going to have a pulmonary embolism, which is pretty much instant death on that. So is that the reasoning that the FMCSA would disqualify a driver because of the possibility of throwing clots out there so readily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Mike, to your point, and my question is, there's probably a ton of drivers out there that don't even realize that they have DVT.
Yes.
And and how would a driver what are some of the first signs to knowing that you got some problems with your veins, out there? What was some of your first signs that you had?
My first thing was that day I've got pain in my leg, and,
Yeah.
and that was it. Some people will get swelling in their legs. Some people will get discoloration where the capillary veins will break. So they get, where the redness from the capillaries. They will get heat in their legs. And some people don't know it until it's too late and the vein takes off or the blood clot takes off and either kills them or goes to their lungs and messes them up.
Okay. All right. So, Steve, I've got that video. I've got that slideshow ready to queue up. If y'all want to go back and touch on that, but I don't really want to move away from this unless Mike, you got some more to say about it. What would you tell? Okay, yeah, go ahead and speak to the compression socks for sure.
These right here. Once I did, they actually kept me off work for 4 months, and they put me back in the truck. They let me go back to work, and yes, I did miss it. I put these on, and I drove up and down the road, and they was hot. I got out of the truck every 2 hours, like they recommended, to walk around. I was still having pain in my legs, and for all the guy drivers out there who like to see their ladies in thigh highs, I can tell you driving a truck with these on is no fun. This is not a laughing matter, although we can make it a laughing matter because laughing is where we learn. I wore them for a month and a half. I still had the pain in the leg. They took me out of the truck again and took me back into the doctor's office and burnt a vein closed on my left leg because that was where it was at. They've got a medical terminology for it, but for a truck driver, they burnt the vein shut. They cut me right below the knee and put a wire in my vein down to my ankle, and it hurt. They give me a pain shot every 2 inches, and it hurt bad. And then when they got up there, they turned around and took it up to my crotch and did the same thing.
Oh, wow.
If they have to do my right leg, which right now I've got the pulling, but because I've done what the doctors told me to do, and because of my lovely wife making me get up and walk and move, they've not had to do anything to my right leg yet. But if they do my right leg, they will put me out before they do that again.
I don't blame you there at all, brother. I definitely don't blame you at all. So, that's one thing that I do every day, and Steve can tell you because I've talked to him sometimes. I stop, I get out, stretch my legs, and I got a certain place on the way up and on the way back that I stop and get out, just for that fact to one, get out and stretch my legs, get my blood circulating, and two, to use the bathroom, of course. But every day on the way up and on the way back, I stop.
Yes, it's we all need to do it. And like I say, I was one of them that went from point A to point B, and I've learned. And so now I want everybody else to learn off of me. I do not want to see a young man's career end or his life end because of one of these. Whereas if I hadn't talked about it, then I'd be guilty of his death. And that's how I look at it.
Now, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor by any means, but just because a driver is experiencing maybe swelling in his leg, the redness, the heat, all these examples that you're giving, it may not be DVT. It may be sugar related, lack of exercise, lack of movement. Like Tim said, I do the same thing. I stop once on the way up, once on the way back. Not only do I walk into the rest area, walk back out, I walk around my truck.
Yes.
Two reasons. Add the footsteps, but the main reason, I check that truck, make sure nothing's broke, nothing's bent, nothing's been pulled. You never know.
Yes.
Maybe something broke on the way down. something's not settling right. Maybe, something in that fifth wheel. Maybe somebody pulled it. Maybe it's just broke. But I want to check that equipment out because I lost sight of that equipment. For a safety standpoint, I want to check the trucks. Plus, two, I do a little extra steps. But something that I was taught when I started flying a lot, my doctor told me, said, hey, you're going to be sitting. So when you're changing planes, you got time, you're standing in line, lift up.
Yes.
Go on the balls of your feet. Just kind of do those and that'll get things moving. And so I'll do that a lot. I'll be standing there on my 30-minute break talking to other drivers, and and they're looking at me like, what are you doing? I said, well, stretching my calves, getting things moved around, And for the most part, we only sit 4.5 hours, but I try to break that up.
Yes. And you are correct. The leg swelling, the redness, that can be from other things. But if they've got that going on, they still need to go to a doctor and get checked. Because like you said, that could be a sign of sugar. It could be a sign of water retention from heart failure. It could be several signs, but do not ignore your legs.
Right.
Exactly. And another thing too, this is just kind of that I try to pass on. When you get in that truck, drivers, take that wallet out of your back pocket, set it up on the dash, put it in the cubby hole, because over a period of time, you'll get a curvature of your spine going on, especially if some of you guys that's got thick wallets. If you got a chain drive wallet, throw it down beside the seat and unbuckle your belt. Unbuckle your belt, loosen your pants. Because even a skinny guy, you're sitting there and that's a restriction.
Yes.
That is a restriction. That was one of the first things my daddy told me when I went on the road. Take your wallet out, unbuckle them pants, son. Unbuckle them pants, because you're not a small guy. Even a small guy, you're restricting that down to your legs.
Yep.
Don't take this for granted. And something else too, drivers, if you've got to pee.
Yeah.
Stop and go pee.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you keep holding it and holding it and holding it, you're going to create kidney problems.
Yes.
That's not good. We're short of drivers as it is. We need to keep you healthy. I'm back to working out in the gym 3 days a week, and I tell you, getting started, it's rough. It's rough. I'm a little weak, and I'm starting out light and working my way up, but I already feel better. I come home, go to take a shower, go to bed. I get up in the morning. I'm not as tired, Excuse me. But no, these are just little things. Now I know a city guy that's in and out of his truck. He don't want to keep unbuckling his pants, but take that wallet out anyway.
Right.
But, he's in, he's out a lot, and
Well, especially if you're a line haul driver or OTR, I mean, don't just stand on the steering wheel and just break the steering wheel till you get from point A to point B. You got to take a break in between, and you know what? 10, 15 minutes is not going to kill you. I mean, and that freight's going to stay in cycle, and it's going to get delivered on time, and it's going to be done safer also. So let's transition here a little bit, and let's go to some of the slides that we have here. I think the first slide that I'm going to run to is the pictures that you sent me, Steve. So I'll let y'all talk about this a little bit. But let me remind the viewing audience tonight and the listening audience that you can call the show and ask Mike any questions you want to. I've got my number back up there. I was going to try to use another number tonight, but it didn't work out. But my number is 229-740-0912. If you'll look right down here on the screen, it's scrolling across the bottom. So y'all give us a call here, and we'll put you on air. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here, Steve, so you and Mike can talk about this a little bit. So here we go.
Okay, this here is their setup. This is the yellow setup, and it's for the no zone. And they've really got this thing set up. They got a big piece of carpet set up, laid down. That's a gray tent like a highway. They've got the lines, the white lines. They've kind of got it set up like a 3-lane highway. And where this patrol car is sitting, believe it or not, at first glance, that driver cannot see that car at first glance, because first glance they will look at that big mirror. That car is not there. But now you look down below in the spot mirror, you'll pick that car up. But when you're riding in that area like that and you're lingering there, and if that driver's got to make a erratic move, he will make that lane change. And next thing you know, he hears horns blowing and fists are shaking at him and everything else. But it's really a neat thing. And then they've got the nice steps platform here. You can walk up, they open the door, they set you down in the truck. They've got another car on the other side. You can just barely see the hood of it and the door over there through the trailer. But they've got it on each side, and it's really a nice setup, isn't it, Mike?
Oh, yes. It's just, when people walk by, they stop and look at it. Now, this is on the main gate coming into the Ohio State Fair, and they've moved it over this year, and I don't know how it's going to work out. But it used to be everybody that come through the main gate would look at this setup. And even if they didn't come over and sit in the truck, they would stop and look at it. And then a lot of times, if I see them looking, I'll go out to talk to them, especially if they've got a young driver with them, because I want to get that young driver up there and show him or her. And then once we get them in, then they come out and tell mom and dad, you got to see this. You got to see this. You can't see that car. And it's so I always use that as my hook, was the young ones. Is if you get the young ones in, then they embarrass mom and dad to get in, and then they see what it's like.
Right, right. Well, let me say this to the listening audience that may be listening to us via Apple Podcast, Anchor, Google Podcast, or Spotify. If you can just visualize on the left side of a semi truck, right at the front of the trailer there, that is our smallest blind spot that we have. And that's where we prefer you to pass at. So we always encourage everybody to pass on the left and try not to pass us on the right. But if you do get caught on that right side, which is our largest blind spot, it can be up to 3 lanes wide, and it can be the length of the semi. We can even lose another semi in that blind spot. So you want to pass us. If you get caught over there, you get on by us to make sure that the driver sees you, but do it safely. But always try to pass us on the left, especially with big commercial vehicles.
And with something, I'm a motorcycle rider too. I've been for several years. And what I don't understand is when the motorcycles pass, they always want to be up against you. And most of the time their feet is across the dotted line. And I've never understood that, because I'm thinking if a tire would blow out, it will take their head off. And I've never understood guys doing that on motorcycles. And it's scary when you look back there and see motorcycles doing that.
Yeah, that's the back view here. And like I say, if you look at this, it's set up like a 3-lane highway. And but to your motorcycle analogy, why is it? Why do they feel the need to ride right beside you on that zipper line? I do not understand that. And I ride bikes myself, and when I'm passing a semi, I'm over next to that yellow line, because when you hit between the truck and trailer, what if you got a crosswind?
Yep.
And or whatever. I mean, it's going to pull you in towards him, and if you're already that close, where are you going?
Because I've rode with the Go Wing Road Riders, and now I ride a Harley, so I've rode everything over the years. And right. They asked me one time with the Go Wing Road Riders, how comes every time we come up to the truck, if I was riding, because we always rode in formations, and they asked, how comes I got so far over? And I said, well, if you'd ever look and see one of them tires blow out like I have, you wouldn't want to be anywhere around it. And that's why I do that. So then they all started putting that in their safety riding curriculum, was about the tires and how to get away from them. A lot of the Harley guys, well, that's my lane, I'm going to protect my lane. Well, I understand protecting your lane, but getting killed protecting your lane is not very smart.
Exactly. Exactly. And something I try to teach the younger drivers and even the older drivers, but especially on a motorcycle. When I come up on a semi, I'll hold back a little bit and I'll make sure that lane is clear. And then
Yes, sir.
I'll proceed on by him without stopping. I try to let that lane go clear so
Yeah.
I can proceed on. You know, I'm not going to break the speed limit by any means, but I'm going to proceed on. And what was that key word I said? Well, I'll go linger. I'm not going to linger there.
Yeah.
Because if we're on a 3-lane situation and there's somebody over on the right or something's coming down a ramp and I can't see it because I'm blinded by that big billboard, I want to give him room.
Yes.
I want to give him room. And even in a car, a lot of times I'll let cars go past the semi and then I'll just keep proceeding on. I don't like to get trapped by that semi.
Yes.
And me as the semi driver, I don't like cars being trapped beside me because, well, what's one of the rules? Always leave yourself an out.
Yep.
And all you guys know out there, all you guys know it is so difficult to leave yourself an out right now because every time you leave a gap, somebody tries to fill it. Somebody, but this no zone that they set up at the fair, I don't know how many people over a 10-day period that they actually put in the truck, but Mike, you and I have been there, and I put several in a 8-9 hour day, and it's some of them, yeah, I know what. Once you get them in there, though, they start seeing things that they're like, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I always try to joke around with them. Hey, go tell your friends, go tell your family, come on back by. We'll stick them up in here and okay, it's a 12-day fair. I'm sorry, 10, 12, 10, 12.
And where did you get 8 hours? Because I was always there a lot longer than that. It's one of those things that once you start doing it,
right.
If you don't get addicted and want to be there every day, there is something wrong. And I still miss it to this day.
Right.
Not being there every day. And I still remember when my terminal manager, who did not, for some reason, like the no zone, he was one of the guys that liked to preach safety, but he didn't want to walk it and he didn't want nothing to do with it. And he pulled me out. Once I lost my protection through the company, he pulled me out. And I'm not going to lie. The day I walked across that parking lot, I cried like a little baby because I could not be there to interact with people and change how they felt about drivers and how they drove around us.
Right.
All right, so let me jump in here. We kind of need to segue to another part of the show here, and I'm going to throw up some pictures. We're going to move through these relatively quick, Mike, but I'm going to let you speak to these pictures here, if you will, real quick. So tell us who this pretty lady is.
This is my lovely wife, Diane. We've been married for 38 years this year, and I've put her through, you know how a truck driver is, especially a young truck driver. I left her the house, and she built us a real nice house, and every once in a while I showed up and helped.
There you go. There you go. All right. So
there we are on our bike.
Yep, yep.
And I don't know who that guy is standing there beside me.
I have no clue.
Mike, you really need to keep better company. I'm here you really need to pick your company.
Yeah, I do pick good company. And, I sat back, and like I say, my terminal manager, there is one thing that eluded me in my trucking career that I so dearly wanted and meant so much to me because of the people that had it before me. And that was Ohio Driver of the Year. And that's Mike Hathaway, who there's a picture of Mike there. So this right here was one of the last accidents I was involved in down in Charleston, West Virginia, on the south side of town. They had construction. This guy had just got his car back. This was the last one I was involved in. This one right here, leave that up for just a second. Let me describe what happened. This is on the north end of Charleston where 77 and 79 go north and 64 goes south. The last ramp coming out of town, that guy in that car come up and he wanted to get on to 64 south. I knew that if he got in front of me, we talk about defensive driving. I knew if that guy got in front of me, he was going to stop. It was rush hour traffic. And I wasn't going to be able to stop. So I kept going, and he come over and actually clipped my right steering tire, flipped him sideways in front of me. And I'm pushing him up the interstate at 62 mile an hour, and he rolled around the right side of me. Now, there was a girl, because there was 2 lanes on the inside of me that go 64 south right there. And there was a girl beside me who I didn't even remember. She said she seen my head whipping around. And she said, I looked at her and the car beside her, and I took them over as far as I could. And then I took them back, which that give her room to miss this guy when he come around the front of my truck, or she'd have hit him head on.
Oh, wow.
This lady went down through Charleston traffic and come back to be a witness for me.
Well, good. There is some good citizens out there for sure.
Yes. Right. This right here is working with law enforcement out at OPATA, Ohio Peace Officer Academy out at London, Ohio. And we had a bunch of broken parts, and we get them out and work with the law enforcement and show them. This here is Keenan Advantage Tanker. They was nice enough to bring it down to the Highway Patrol Academy. And this is cadets and patrolmen and motor carriers underneath. And I'm explaining to them how the brakes work, how the air comes out of the tank, and where it goes into the chamber on the emergency side and on the service side. And so how they understand how it all works rather than just measuring the brakes and not knowing. This right here, the gentleman in the white and the blue shirt is Brent. Oh, my gravy. I forget Brent's last name. He's out of Terre Haute, Indiana. He was a sergeant at the time for the Indiana State Highway Patrol.
Brett,
and he was what?
Brett Hoover.
Yeah, Brent Hoover. You must be getting Kathy Spencer telling you stuff.
No, I listened to I'm on his Facebook page, Indiana DOT, whatever it is. Yeah. But I'm on Brett's, and I listen to him on Sirius Satellite Radio.
Yes, he is a great guy, and me and him connected on Facebook, and he actually about lost his job because of Facebook, because he was showing drivers what was wrong, and everybody was learning off of him. Well, we started comparing notes, and then he wanted to work with us. And at the time, we had Rodney Glassner was our safety guy, and he was based in Indiana. And so I said, Brent, I'm going to get this worked out so we can get together. And, oh, there's my hero. That one makes me stop, Steve.
Yeah, buddy. That's a big sexy right there, baby.
Yeah. That guy right there is my hero, my mentor, my father, my best friend, all rolled in one.
And his name is Mike?
Mike Hathaway.
Tell us a little bit about Mike.
Mike Hathaway was very big in the roadway safety team. He won the first year he done the driver's rodeo. He was driver of the year of Ohio. He was just bigger than life. This guy never met an enemy, and even the female dogs liked him. that is the truth. He passed away 2 years ago of cancer. The Highway Patrol, at one time, 90% of the Highway Patrol in the state of Ohio had been through his classes. I think all the motor carriers had been through his classes. And he built a rapport with the Highway Patrol and the motor carrier that carries on to this day because of his legacy and his professionalism. And one of my proudest moments, and it's because of Mike Hathaway and the connections I had with the Highway Patrol, I got a young man into the Highway Patrol Academy who is a highway patrolman today. And I went to his graduation, and that was probably one of my proudest moments ever. But that man there was in the state of Ohio. Everybody knows Mike. This is, I was working with the motor carrier class down at the state fairgrounds, and we was doing stops and approaches on trucks with solvent citizens. And it's a lot of fun, but it's serious stuff. I've put pistols in their faces. I had one boy. One day we had weapons in the trucks, and we was getting the motor carriers to start looking for them because they're unarmed. They're out there with a Tahoe and the radio, and that's it. And so this boy I thought was going to do a right hand approach. Well, he ended up doing a left hand approach. He come up the driver's side of the truck, and I had the weapon laying in the middle of the truck for him to find. Well, he was on the wrong side, so I'm thinking, how can I do this? And so then I kept reaching around, and he'd have me put my hands back on the steering wheel, and then finally he asked me for my wallet. And when he asked me for my wallet, I reached down between the seats and come back around and stuck the weapon right on the end of his nose. That young man throwed his hands up and says, I quit. And I'm thinking, oh my Lord, I just ended this guy's career. What have I done? And the training officer that was with him, which was Trooper Snodgrass, he pulled him to the side and he said, no. He said, here's what we need to do. We need to redo this. And so we did. And then he showed him how to move. And when I come back around with the weapon, I was looking for him and he was gone. So thank goodness that guy's still a motor carrier today. But I've had a lot of fun working with law enforcement and the motor carriers from basically all the surrounding states. There I'm under with the CV Safe inspector, showing her how to hook her airlines up. Like if a truck's burn up, the airlines are broke off of it. I'm showing her how to hook her air tank to it to engage the brakes so she can get a measurement off of them.
Gotcha. All right.
And that's one day I got to play with triples on the track out at Opata, the Peace Officer Academy. And we was actually sliding them. And we was taking the ABS and shutting them off. At that time, we could pull the fuses out of the ABS and go around the track and lock it up and slide it and have it going every which way. Wow. And then put the ABS in it and show them how the ABS worked and why it was so important to have the ABS systems.
Now let's hold on. Let me back up here. So let me backtrack on you right here on the ABS here. So you were sliding around the track without the ABS being active, and then you were sliding around the track with the ABS being active. How much control did you have with the ABS?
The ABS, you can see it stopped perfectly in line, and if you could see the back of the pictures, you could see the marks where I stopped. So it stopped perfectly straight with the ABS hooked up. With the ABS off, we almost had a problem because it got way away from me.
Okay, we're almost to the end of the slides here. Talk to us right here.
That right there is when we lived in Dresden, Ohio, and my dad drove for trans service out of Coshocton, Ohio. And for those young guys that don't know, that is in Emeryville. And the two little guys there to the side of it is me and my brother.
So you've been at this a while for sure.
Yes. We used to have to lay the grease guns up against the fire barrel to get the grease to go in the fittings because we was little and we couldn't pump it when it was cold. And if we missed the grease fitting, we was explained to where our meals come from and that if that didn't have grease, that truck might break down and I might not eat. And that's how Dad was with us. That's me on my first road trip with my dad. And that's an old white there.
Yeah, I see that. And wait, so he was with Consolidated Freight?
Yes, sir.
And I see this is like a flatbed with some side bodies on it, right?
Yes, it's a flatbed with what they call a side kit and tarps on it. And of course, that's one of the years I got to work at the state fair with the no zone at the beginning.
Okay. Well, that was pretty good. We appreciate you sharing those pictures with us, Mike. We are in the post-trip part of the show here, so we're fixing to wind it down here because we go from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and we try to cut it off exactly at an hour. So we're at the hour of 8:57 Eastern right now. I want to tell the listening audience that next week we're going to have one of two guests on. I'm not sure which one that I can get pulled in here yet, but it's a lady out of Washington State, and her name is Dominique, and she's known as Dominique the Dump Truck Driver on Facebook, and she has over 60,000 followers over there, and she does a lot of YouTubing over there. But she's a very interesting lady. If she can't get booked next week to come on the show, I'm going to have a driver from Driver's Last Mile. He founded it. His name is Robert Palm, and we'll pull him in here to the show, and we'll talk about Driver's Last Mile there. But just want to give the listening audience what I possibly got lined up in the near future, But audience, remember, you can go back and look at these on Facebook if you want to go back to the archive and check it out. And you can also listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and Anchor. So anyway, go back and listen to them. I'll have this one up on the podcast probably tomorrow or the next day, okay? But anyway, Steve, last words for Mike here.
Drivers, listen to what we talked to tonight, please. If you've got any signs or symptoms or anything going on with your legs, get with your doctor, get it checked out. It may be nothing, but get it checked out. It's got to be something. So, Mike, thank you, brother. Appreciate everything. Look forward to having you on again. We'll stay in touch, man.
Yes. I've definitely enjoyed it. And one thing real quick, the thing that finally sunk into me was a girl I went to school with died of a DVT 2 days before Christmas. A driver that I know from Cambridge died 2 days before her. And a good friend of mine who works in Columbus at Ohio Cat, one of his friends had a stroke and ended up passing away from this. So it is very, very serious. Please pay attention to your legs.
Mike, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight and sharing your experience in the trucking industry, and thank you for what you did in the trucking industry. You're retired now, but you will always be a trucker, and I know that you'll be a trucker at heart. But we thank you for coming and sharing your experience and giving the younger generation good advice on, why they need to get out of the truck. They need to stretch. They need to get the circulation go. So we definitely appreciate it. I know the listening audience does. And this is just a little bit right here from the listening audience, probably right here. So let me cue this up. So we appreciate it. We're going to wind this thing down, audience. So here we go, Steve.
I believe in God our Father.